I attended Geoff Keighley's The Game Awards, and it was a very fun and eventful experience. I brought my son there. We had a great time, memories forever. But something that kind of stuck out to me after I made my video the other day about Erika Ishii and what she was doing, just smacking her face with the popcorn over and over again while she was being nominated and up for winning the best whatever actress award or whatever. I was like, wait a second. I wasn't allowed to have popcorn. And then I looked around her. I'm like, no one else had popcorn. When I went there, my son was like, I'm hungry. I want a snack. And there were concession stands outside the auditorium, like it's still inside the building, but like concessions where, like at a baseball game or a basketball game, you just walk outside the seating area and, the concessions area. And we walked out, we went to the concessions, and I got myself a cup of wine. I got him a thing of popcorn. And the guy who was selling it to us was like, hey, just so you know, you can't eat that in the auditorium. I was like, oh, okay. And I got my glass of wine. He's like, and you can't bring that wine in there either. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, you still want it? I was like, yeah, of course. Okay. So I got the wine. I started drinking it like as fast as I could because I'm like, I don't want to bring this in there and, whatever. And I got to the door where the security guard was, and my son was eating the popcorn, and I had the wine. And the guy goes, whoa, 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 whoa. Can't come in here. I was like, yeah, I know. The guy told me. I was just seeing how far we could go to see if I could at least watch some of it while we're eating. He's like, no, sorry, man. Same rules for everyone. You can't go inside the auditorium with food or drinks. I was like, okay. So I was like, I guess I got to pound the wine. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay. And it was like so hard to pound. It was a lot of wine. I was like, and I was like taking sips and I started chatting with him. We were talking about where he's done security before, the celebrities he's met, stuff like that. That was a conversation we were having. My son was pounding the popcorn as fast as he could. And I finished the wine, and we threw the popcorn out, or put the glass on the table where they take them away. And we went back into the auditorium and sat down and watched the rest of the Game Awards. And I didn't think much of it because I'm like, yeah, that's the rule. Nobody was eating or drinking around us. So, okay, I guess that rules for everyone. Except for Erika Ishii, apparently. I said, important to note that food and drinks inside the auditorium were strictly prohibited. Security stopped me and made me pound my entire cup of wine and toss my son's popcorn at the entrance next to the concession stand before we were allowed to re-enter. And I'm like, again, I don't have any issue with that. That's the rules. That's the rules for everyone. Not mad at the Game Awards. It's the auditorium, by the way. It's not the Game Awards. So I get it. It's fine. Whatever. I said, this isn't meant to be a slight against the security guard. The dude was legit cool as fuck. Was chatting with him about the events he's worked in the past and famous people he's met with over the years. My point is that he felt bad, but even told me same rules apply for everyone in there. Grum said, some said it was valid emotional support popcorn, and I'm dying laughing. And I said, what's next? An emotional support trophy? Andrew LB says, doesn't the bucket have the Game Awards logo on it? I know you can't bring food in, but were there 0 concessions available at the show? I said, talking about the bucket, it's from Sucker Punch, not the show. And yes, there were concessions outside the auditorium in the entry area inside the building, but food and drinks were strictly prohibited. And then this guy, box office buzz, outside drinks, you numpty. I think he thought like you can't bring them in from like restaurants across the street or something. And I'm like, I was literally in attendance. The fuck you on about? He goes, so then you would know you should, so then you would should. Oh God, you already know what you're getting into with this guy. So then you should know you could buy food and drinks at the concession. Right. So why are you being a disingenuous POS if you were there? Smash. I said, my brother in Christ, please reread what I wrote. Important to note that food and drinks inside the auditorium were strictly prohibited. And then post a screenshot of the rules. And I'm like, correct. Is English not your first language, or are you just highly regarded? Laugh my ass off. You clearly have comprehension skills. Outside food is not allowed in the auditorium. Food purchased there, as long as it is not glass, is prohibited. Bro, they didn't sell glass. Everything was in plastic cups, and you couldn't bring it in there. That's before you even get into the fact that Talon do jokes, reactions like this all the time with permission. I said, here, let me break this down for you as best I can. Food from outside the auditorium, read concessions, is not allowed inside the auditorium where the show was. Hope that helps. Yeah, I get it. We are supposed to take your Karen ass word for it that you were reprimanded for bringing food into the auditorium, and are very upset that Erika was able to do a joke reaction with her GOI bucket. Laugh my ass off. Again, I am so impressed with this guy. I said, no, you idiot. I'm explaining the rules for the show. Anyways, have a good life. So clearly, people with smash derangement syndrome thinking that I'm like, I don't know, honing in on Erika Ishii or harassing her, targeting her, making videos about her. I'm acknowledging a situation that I found quite curious. The entire auditorium did not allow popcorn, food, or drinks. Like it was clearly stated. The guy told me when he sold it to me. I still tried to get in there because I just spent a lot of money on it and I wanted to enjoy it, but they stopped me when I tried to go in. I was like, okay, they're actually serious about this. I can't bring it in there. Understood. I'm not going to try to fight it or make a scene, obviously. It's just those are the rules. I get it. Makes sense. And here's Tebow. He says, what I find sad is that Erika Ishii planned this whole stunt knowing she didn't have a chance in hell of winning the Game Awards. She snuck in food and flaunted it, chewing her popcorn with her mouth hanging open like a toddler. The entitlement is strong with Miss Antifa, which again goes in line with Antifa, breaking rules, not following directions, or thinking you're more important than everyone else. This is the food and drinks rules and regulations. Guests may not bring in outside food or beverage items into the venue during events. The only exception is unopened plastic water bottles, 1 liter or smaller, on per guest, which, by the way, even during this event, they were saying we couldn't even do that, but okay. Glass bottles or metal cans are strictly prohibited. They weren't selling those. Gust, I think they mean guest, must dispose of unauthorized items prior to entrance into the venue. Yeah. So fair. These all make sense. But for some reason, Erika Ishii brought her popcorn bucket onto the red carpet and then proceeds to sit down, open it up, and just pound her face with it the entire time. Now, again, people might look at this and be like, it's not really that big of a deal. It's not, but at the same time, it kind of does speak to a much bigger situation of the privilege that she thinks she has, that she's better than everyone, that the rules don't apply to her for some reason, that she can just do whatever the hell she wants. I wonder, genuinely, like the rules for me, not for thee. I genuinely wonder about the future of her career in the gaming industry. And honestly, if she's ever going to get a gig ever again. I know that sounds ridiculous just from this, but it's kind of shown who she is, the character, and everything she stands for. This is a very dangerous person to bring into your organization. That is a catalyst for controversy, we'll say. But as far as the Game Awards are concerned, Geoff Keighley says, thank you for making 2025 the most watched Game Awards ever. Viewership up 11% year over year, 171 million plus global live streams of the show. Conversation on X up 12%, 23,000 co-streams on Twitch and YouTube up 50%. It was a massive showing, breaking all kinds of records. Variety 2025 Game Awards broke viewership records with an estimated 171 million global live streams of the broadcast, up 11% over previous record-setting 2024 tally with 154 million live streams. That's That's legit. That's impressive. And I think, honestly, as I said before, from my attendance in person, witnessing the direction that Geoff Keighley's The Game Awards show is going right now, it feels like it's back on track, but it could just as easily get knocked off track in the future if he starts pandering to the ideologues, which happened in the past, falling into that trap. The people that want to push their agendas into gaming. And there was a little bit of that at the show, but nothing compared to recent years. And I think there's a very bright future for this if it keeps up. But if it doesn't, people are going to be on it and dismissing it immediately for what it is at the end of the day. There is a level of acknowledgement from the greater gaming community on the whole, but 154 million live streams is insane. And the amount of people that have been playing Expedition 33 since the Game Awards, let me bring this up. This should tell you all you need to know about, yeah, sure, it's a Game Awards show and it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme, blah, blah, blah. But it does for the developers. This is IGN says, everyone's playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33 following Game Awards sweep. In wake of an incredible run at the Game Awards, Clair Obscur won record-breaking 9 awards, announced free DLC. A whole lot of people are purchasing, downloading the game right now. Observation comes from multiple data sources, which are pointing to the sudden rush of players across the platform. On Steam, the game reached a peak over the weekend of 56,993 players, according to SteamDB. Numbers have not been that high since June. And this is a quick look at the spike from the Game Awards after it got Game of the Year. That is a massive bump from where it was. You can't tell me in the past 6 months, you can't tell me the Game Awards doesn't mean anything when this kind of spike happens if you win Game of the Year. Like this is tangible information that proves that as much as people want to ignore it, it does still carry weight. It does. But yeah, as far as the future of the Game Awards, the weight that it carries really does rest on the shoulders of the direction they go with it. I'll see what happens with it in the future. I don't know how much faith I have in it, but I do know that the Game Awards 2025 was a fantastic show, and I'm hopeful that it keeps up in the future. But for now, I'll leave that there. Sergeant Segment for the 2. A lot of trouble to go through for a cringe bit. Yeah, I don't think it was a bit. Why would it be a bit? There was no bit involved. It was just her ramming popcorn into her face the whole time. There was no joke.